Well, hello. Yeah, this is a kind of sad duty I've acquired here, is to tell you a little bit about the life and times of Helen Maclean. I'm John Perham. I have known Helen for some 45 years. I'm currently attached to the School of Mathematics and Statistics at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia. Anyway, so the title is Farewell, Dearest Friend, and in loving memory of Helen Susan Maclean. And she was born on the 1st of December 1944, and she left us on the 14th of December 2013. And this is a picture of her when she graduated from the University of Leeds. Anyway, Helen was born in the northeast of England, in the city of Washington, which is close to between Durham and Newcastle, and she attended the Washington Grammar Technical School with some skill, and in particular she was the head girl and the editor of the school magazine. And in one of the school magazines from 1963, she is quoted as follows: "There is more to our school life than the learning of facts alone. We must learn how to approach life and to take an interest and active part in it. Above all, we must learn to think creatively." And I think that is more or less the way Helen carried out the rest of her life. Well, here's the most recent picture of her, which was taken in December 2012 when I visited her in Manchester. And lots of nice outings around Manchester, and a visit to Bob West and the good folk of Ayton Banks, which was where she was born. And one of the main purposes of this celebration is for her many friends in Manchester and Denmark who couldn't make it to her funeral. Well, this is the house she was or lived as a young child, 15 Walmer Terrace, Ayton Banks, and she lived here with her mother, father and brother Malcolm, and she attended the Washington Grammar Technical School, where she was the head girl, the president of the debating society, editor of the school magazine, and first soprano in the prize-winning school choir. And she also did drawings too. Well, after her successful school career, Helen moved to the University of Leeds, where she emerged in 1966 with a first-class degree in English. She followed this with 9 months in the University of Reykjavik, that's in Iceland, in 1967, which resulted in a thesis in 1967 and the award of the degree of Master of Philosophy in Old Icelandic. No sooner was she finished with that than she became a lecturer in English language and medieval literature at the University of Manchester in 1968, and that's when I met her. I was there doing my PhD in mathematics. Anyway, this picture is the entrance to the Arts Building at the University of Manchester, where Helen taught and researched until she retired in 1997. And courses she taught included Old and Middle English Language and Literature, Old Icelandic Language, Literature, History and Culture, History of the English Language, English Dialects, Phonetics, Medieval English Literature and Culture, and Fantasy and Science Fiction. Well, when she retired, that's when we resumed our contact again, and following her retirement from the University of Manchester, Helen took a job at the I3 network as editor of the Projects magazine at the University of Odense in Denmark, which is where I was at that time. This involved writing editorials, getting contributed articles from the organizations in the EU Network of Excellence in Intelligent Information Interfaces, and organizing workshops for the members. And this is the cover of one of the magazines of which she was the editor. While she was in Denmark, Helen and I lived in Skabbershuse, and this is a picture of her swimming at the beach when we lived there from 1999 to 2005. And Skabbershuse is a medieval fishing village on the east coast of the island of Funen. And swimming was very important to Helen. She even swam here once when the water temperature was 1 degree. Well, when the job at the I3 network finished, she resumed her contact with the Anna Magnienski Institute, which is now part of the Nordic Research Institute at the University of Copenhagen. And Helen's main project was a modern definitive edition from the island's Icelandic texts of Parsifal's Saga and Balvin's Theta. This is the Icelandic version of Christian de Troyes' medieval romance Parsifal le Gallois ou la Comte de Galles. The books on the right are from the collection in Copenhagen, and you can see they look pretty old, which they are. And then when I moved back to Australia, Helen moved back to Manchester and worked further on the book we just talked about. But then she got involved with a gentleman from Queen's University, Belfast, where she was doing a thesis. Or he was doing a thesis, and we can see. And this is by Irvin Gray. There's a picture of him there. And this is the house in Ireland, I believe, where the religious movement, the 2x2 movement, so-called, of which Helen and her parents were members. And this is was a thesis on the theology of it, and Helen proofread the thesis, and then Irvin Gray then produced the book, and this is the cover of the book. And he wrote, Helen was immensely helpful to me during my research of the 2x2 movement, and in many ways as my research progressed, acted as a de facto supervisor. Having been born into the movement and an uncle who was an overseer, Helen had a ringside seat and an encyclopedic knowledge of all aspects of the movement. And she proofread my thesis and subsequent book of the same title, 2x2, the shape of a shapeless movement. I should say that I was there when she was doing some of this, and I actually proofread read part of the manuscript of the book. And she was so pleased to be named in the acknowledgements. I have no doubt that my research gave Helen a focus and in some ways a new lease of life, simply because this was the first time that there had been an academic research into the movement, and this gave it extra credibility. So that was Helen's academic career, and she tragically left us on the 14th of December, and she will be dreadfully missed by everybody who knew her. So I hope this gives some picture of Helen's academic career.